Lori here. I'm back to do my August reading wrap-up part 2. So if you've seen my part 1 reading wrap-up, you knew August got kicked off a little bit rougher with my reading, but I am pleased to report that at the very end of, when I tally everything up, I have read about, I've read 29 things. It was really close to finishing the 30th, but I got a little bit distracted because I was in the city all day yesterday. So let's go over my TBR game. So if you don't watch my TBR videos, I have a big jar of prompts and I pick out depending on how many I roll. So I did wind up replacing a couple of the books, and I think I'm going to limit myself to only replacing 2 every single month if something pops up. Blog tours. There has to be a reason I'm replacing, not just because I feel like it. But so the first prompt I picked was NetGalley Arc, and I was supposed to read Keeper of the Night. I wound up reading something for a blog tour I was on, Burden Falls, so Keeper of the Night got replaced. It is still in my jar, so I will probably wind up reading it in September, especially when I go back to school and am commuting a little bit more. New to me, I did read From Little Tokyo with Love by Sarah Kuhn. I really, really enjoyed that one. I talked about that in my previous reading wrap-up. Middle grade, I did wind up replacing Pinch of Magic, but that was because I was doing a 5-star read prediction and I read Sky Raiders, which I liked. I didn't love, but I enjoyed it. And then my audiobook that I read was My Contrarian Mary by the Lady Genies. I really liked this one. It gave it 5 stars. Probably one of my favorite reads of the month. My ebook, The Falconer, I actually wound up listening to, but I do own the ebook of it. And then another ebook that I did read was Finley Donovan is Killing It. So I did read it. I just didn't read it in the format I proposed, but I did read another ebook to compensate. The audiobook that I chose was The Princess Will Save You by Sarah Henning, which I did listen to. And the random number generator, I believe one of these was the replacement book, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was, but I did wind up DNFing We Are the Wildcats. So we are going to dive in the other stuff I read in the month of August, and I hope you guys like it. So the first book we are going to chat about is The Lightning Thief by Riordan. This is actually the graphic novel, and I actually just really wanted to reread this story. This was part of a 5-star read prediction video because I needed to pick a graphic novel or something for one of the games I'm a part of. So I like this. I gave it 5 stars. It was nice to revisit the story because I would like to actually start rereading this series. It may be a September thing. We will see what the TBR gods say. But I did wind up liking this. I gave it 5 stars. I think that this is a great way to start if you want to start kids on reading this series. And I know that they have adapted, if not all of the first series, then most of them. So I like this. I gave it 5 stars. It was a fun read, and it was a nice refresher course because I do plan on continuing listening to these books at some point this year. And then the next book that I read, if my notes are correct, is Pride and Premeditation by Tertia Pearce. Now, this is a Jane Austen murder mystery, so it follows Lizzie Bennet, obviously, and Darcy. And Lizzie works at her father's law firm, but she is not allowed to be a lawyer. She has to get married. That's what happens, obviously Pride and Prejudice. But when she kind of gets sucked up into a murder case, she's determined to prove that this man did not kill his brother-in-law, and Darcy gets involved. I adored this book. I thought it was so fun, so engaging. It was a perfect mix between historical fiction, Regency romance, but with a murder mystery twist. I've read a couple of them this year, and none of them did it as good as this book did. I really enjoyed it. I like the characters. I really like Lizzie. I like Darcy. I like the family elements. The next one is going to be Sense and Sensibility, or a retelling of that. I will definitely be checking it out. I really like this one, and I'll probably be giving this to a friend the next time I see her when we go back to work. But really wound up liking this one and gave it 5 stars. Definitely found a new author to keep an eye out on. And then let me just double check I'm not missing anything, because I did read some books on and then the next book I read was another 5-star read prediction for me, and that is Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Casamino. Here is a photo. Year of reading slightly different cozy mysteries that really have been wowing me. I have loved Dilate for Annie's. I loved Arsenic and Adobo. I really liked this one. And it just makes me see how much I love these in comparison to the more typical cozy mysteries, which I will talk about later. But I wound up really liking this one, and I gave this one like 4.5 stars. The only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is I thought that some of the plot elements were a little bit predictable, but you basically follow this author who is down on her luck. She's divorced, she has 2 kids, her husband's kind of a jerk. I'll say that, like, he's threatening to take her kids away from her, and she's an author, and she's had one book that did really, really well, but she really has writer's block. She's really, really struggling. But when she's in a Panera meeting with her agent, a woman overhears her and assumes that she's a contract killer and hires her to kill her husband. And that sort of sets her on an adventure that she never could have predicted. It's just a really engaging read, very, very fun. Some predictable moments, but overall, I really, really liked it, and I wound up giving it 4.5 stars. I will definitely read more by this author in the future. I also want to go back and read her YA books, which I have on my TBR and just have not gotten to yet, but overall, super impressed, and another unique cozy mystery with a twist that you're not expecting, and I really did like that. And then the next book that I wound up reading, let me just find it, is My Contrary Mary by the Lady Genies. I really like this book as well. This follows Mary, Queen of Scots, Frances, her betrothed, and Ari, the daughter of Nostradamus. And all of these stories have like a magical twist. There is characters that can turn into animals, and Mary is one of them. She can turn into a mouse. And it's just a fun take on the Mary, Queen of Scots story. Her story is much more sadder than this version, but I liked it. I think at the start I would have assumed Mary was going to be my favorite character, but I had a really big soft spot for Frances throughout this whole book. All the point of views were super engaging. It was really, really fun. I love the Lady Janie's point of view. I also love Ari because Ari kept seeing into the way future like our modern times, and I thought that was great. I really like this. There was also a cameo from the characters from My Plain Jane, which again was really, really fun, and I wound up giving this book 5 stars for review. Definitely have to go back and read their Western one, but right now I really like this one and gave this one 5 stars. And the next book that I read was an audiobook of The Falconer by Elizabeth May. Here is the photo. Fae story set in Scotland, and I liked it. I don't know if I liked it enough to keep reading it, but you basically follow this girl, and her mother is killed by the fairies, but everyone in her little community thinks that she killed her mother. And she is a fae killer, and she has like a little pixie she's friends with, but also a big fairy, and it's just her adventure to kind of get justice for her mother's murder, but she's also in the process of being married off to her best friend's brother. It's a little bit complicated. I didn't feel really connected to any of the characters. I thought the plot was interesting. It reminded me a little bit of The Cruel Prince, but it wasn't my favorite. I only gave it 3 stars, and I don't know if I'm going to keep reading. It is the Time Warp YA book club book, but I haven't been liking the series as much as I was hoping, so I might try to read the second one in the month of September and just see how I feel, but we will see. But I only went up giving that one 3 stars. And then the next book that I wound up reading was another physical book, and this is Curse of the Spectre Queen by Jen Elder Moak. This has actually started the Avengers reading challenge. I actually suddenly I just got really invested in this Avengers reading challenge. I've been loosely participating all year, but I just really now want to finish it by the end of the year, so I have to get a move on. But the reading vlog was about Spider-Man, so every book you read had to be connected to your previous book. So the first one I started with was Curse of the Spectre Queen by Jenna Elder Moak. This was an Indiana Jones retelling set in the 1920s. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. I really like the Irish elements to it. Like, there was a part of it that was set in Ireland. There was a main character who was a book restorer, and there was 3 characters that were the focus. It was an unexpected ending. I really liked it, and I wound up giving it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite, but I like the historical fiction elements, and especially like the Irish mythology elements. So yeah, I wound up giving this one 3 stars for review for that reading vlog. And then the next book that I wound up reading, actually I finished it right before the reading vlog, was Hex in the City, and here is a picture of this one. TBR, my physical TBR for so long. I had like the ebook for a couple of years. I heard about this book from Book Hype, and the person who said it was like the Mortal Instruments meets a rom-com, and I just had to read it. But it follows this girl who is working in sort of like a job as an assistant, and she doesn't really like her job, but she starts to realize things aren't like normal in New York City, and she gets recruited by this agency because she's supposed to be an immune. She's not affected by magic. Magic can't affect her, but she could see reality. So they kind of hire her to sort of like assist them and be like their eyes for magic, and she gets sucked into this world, and you get to meet Merlin and a bunch of other side characters. It was a delight. It was so much fun. I read it in like 2 days. It's like a long series, so I'll probably like add them to my listening queue as I go on. I got a couple on an Audible sale, so I'll probably look for Audible sales as they come about. But I really liked it, and I wound up giving it 4 stars for review. It was just a nice palate cleanser, like a nice listening palate cleanser, and it was a pretty quick read. And I'm such a Merlin girl, so seeing Merlin again in some form was super nice, and I really liked the main character. It's also set in New York City, so it was fun. I wound up giving that one 4 stars for review. And then the next book that I read started like a new track in my Avengers reading vlog, and that is The Cursed Carnival. And this is like the middle grade anthology. It's coming out in September. Here is a picture. This is it short stories from the books of all the Rick Riordan Presents authors based on the characters in their current works. So I read all the stories. There were some book series I haven't quite started yet, but overall, I was really impressed with this anthology. The 2 stories that I was a little bit confused at were Sal and Gabby Breaks the Universe, that story, just because I hadn't read the second book, and the Tristan Storm one because I've read none of those. But all of the other stories I thought were super fun, super engaging. It was a great read. It was fun. I would read it as like a palate cleanser between all my other reads towards the end of the month, and I really enjoyed it. I definitely would like to go back and read Sal and Gabby, the sequel, and also finally read Tristan Storm because it's been on my TBR for so long. But I liked it. I think my favorite story was probably Arusha. I really like that one. I also really like the Last Fallen Star story, and I liked seeing Rick Riordan write Irish mythology. That was a fun story. And what is the other one I really liked? I also really liked Palo Santiago. I think that story was really fun too. So overall, I end up giving the anthology like 4 stars. I sometimes struggles with anthologies, but I really did like that one. And the next book that I wound up reading was also connected to the curse of the Spectre Queen. I'll show you guys a picture again. They're both pitched as Indiana Jones retellings. This one's in the 1920s. This one's in space. This is the concluding novel to that. I've read a lot of science fiction this month, which was definitely not the plan, but I really did like this. So this book, it was fun. It was definitely a different sort of science fiction novel. I haven't read a whole lot of science fiction, I'll be very honest, but I liked it. The romance was really fun. This one was set on it. The location changed a little bit, but I liked it, and I thought that it was a very quick paced read. We got to meet some new characters, but still play with old characters. It was fun. I gave it 4 stars, and that led to my next read, which was The Other Side of the Sky by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, because they're written by the same author duo. Sorry, this is very holographic. I apologize. But this is another science fiction story. This is their newest book. I think it came out last year. But this follows 2 characters, Prince North and Nim. Nim is a goddess and believes no one can touch her, and North is a prince in the above world. But when North decides that he's going to go like for a drive to try to see if he can get his plane to fly, he is sucked into the other side of the sky and he's stuck there, and they have to sort of work together to get him back. There's a lot of drama in the stories. It was very, very fast paced. I like both characters a lot. I actually had to reread the last 50 pages twice because I was a little bit confused. But there was a lot of conversations in here that were really unique and different. Like, you know, the talk about for the greater good. Are we doing this for the greater good? Are we doing this for ourselves? I really like the story. I like both characters, and it was a really, really fun read. I'm really excited for the second book. I totally saw where the second book would be going, but I still really liked it, and I wound up giving this one 4 stars for review. After the Cursed Carnival, the next book I read for that link was The Coconut Cake Murder by Joanne Fuqua. This is more of a traditional cozy mystery, and I listened to the audiobook, but here's the photo. I have mixed feelings about this series because I love the characters and I like the small town feel of it. The mysteries never really wow me. Honestly, they never do. This one I actually really liked. I also really liked it because it was the murder was really connected to Hannah. It was connected to Lonnie, a character that I've always really liked. I wound up giving this one 3 stars, and then I immediately had to go and listen to the Christmas Cupcake Murder. And this one, they do this sometimes. They like flash backwards into before the series has even started, because there's like 27 books in the series. So this one was set before the start of all of these series, and it was called the Christmas Cupcake Murder. And this was more like a mystery. I wouldn't say there was murder involved. There was more of a mystery, and I did like it, but here's the photo. One thing I've noticed reading both these books back to back and then reading, like, you know, another book like Finley Donovan is there is a lot of over explaining in the story. Like, something will happen that Hannah experiences, and then like the next scene you're just basically relearning it as she explains it to someone else. So it get a little bit repetitive, and that's probably why I really like listening to them now, because I could speed it up and it's fun. This one had to do with a man who was believed to be like a homeless beggar, but something's not right. He doesn't really have a memory, and they sort of start to uncover why he has no memory. We set around the holidays. It was very, very fun. I gave it 3 stars. I'm just waiting for my library book to get the next book so I can be caught up. But by the time for 2022, when we get the 28th book in the series, they're fun, they're engaging. Definitely not my favorite cozy mystery series, especially now that I've read so many really, really fun ones, but they're enjoyable, and I like the characters a lot. The next book I read, Connecting to the Other Side of the Sky by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, was read a book with 2 people on the cover. So I read Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. Here's a photo. This book, I gave it 5 stars. It basically follows Nix and Charlie as they're going on an adventure to Paris. There's a lot about Nick coming to terms with his bisexuality, and also them on their journey to kind of come out as a couple. But also there's a lot about Nick, Charlie, and his self-harming, which I thought was really interesting. I did not expect that going into that story, but I liked it. I thought it was 5 stars. I really don't know if I'm going to be able to wait until December when we get our books. I may have to just order it from Book Depository, but I really like the series quite a bit. I know the Netflix series has finished filming. I don't know when we're going to get that, but I like this a lot. It was very, very fun, very, very well crafted. I like the writing style, but I also just like the stories a lot as well, and the art style is really, really nice, so definitely a fan favorite from me. And then the next book after I read Heartstopper, I read a book with 1 word in the title, so I moved on to Fresh by Margaret Wood. This is a loosely inspired Emma retelling. Margaret Wood was the Epic Reads girl. She used to do all the videos, and then she like moved companies, but she's a published author now. I got this for my giveaway from Amulet Books. Abrams, I guess. I like this book a lot. I thought it was very, very fun. It's definitely new adult. I will say that. It's a new adult read, very, very sex positive. It has a bisexual main character, and I'll see if I can find it. It's very, very, it's like an interesting story structure because she is really telling the story to an audience. So like there's like, you know, there's stuff like this, there's like supplemental material, but then there's also like footnotes at the bottom, and I just thought it was a really, really fun reading experience. It's definitely like it's definitely like an interesting romance. And there's a, she's a bisexual character, so it's very, very interesting. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. When I started it, I didn't think it would go the way that it did. There's also a lot of talk about friendship. They also do talk about sexual assault in here, and the use of like antidepressants and studying drugs. So ADHD was also brought up. So it's a nice balance of the harder topics, but also like, the common things that happen in a freshman year in college. Her college, Emerson, reminds me a lot of my college of Wells, because it's a very, very small liberal arts college, and we've experienced a lot of the same exact things. I really like this book. I gave it 3 stars. I'll definitely read more by this author in the future, but the highlight for me of the story was definitely like the yelling, the talking to the audience, and the breaking the fourth wall. So I like this. I gave it 3.75 stars and hope you will consider checking it out. And then I have been trying to get through my list books for the summer because I've been doing a really, really bad job, I'll be honest. So I wound up picking up Rebel Rose by Emma Thurlin. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling set after They Save the Day. And it's 1789, and Belle doesn't really want to be queen. Her land has sort of seceded from France after King Louis did some bad things. And there's a rebel on the horizon, and there's more threats than her and the Beast can predict. I like this book. I gave it 4 stars. I listened, actually probably like 3.75 stars. I liked it. I listened to it. I'm definitely going to check out the Mulan one that's coming out soon. It was a really fun read, a fun listen. It was nice being back with characters that, I know. And I like this. I know some people didn't like it the best, but I enjoyed it. Wasn't my favorite fantasy book I've ever read. Wasn't my favorite Belle retelling, but I liked it. And then let me make sure I didn't miss anything else, because sometimes I do. And then the last book I read yesterday while I was in the city, I finished it, was Soul of Stars by Ashley Poston. This is the concluding novel to the Heart of Iron duology. Again, I really like this book. The only note I would give to you is I would recommend, if you're going to read Heart of Iron and Soul of Stars, try to read them a little bit closer together. But it was great. I love the characters. I love the pacing. There was a lot of unexpected twists at the end. I loved all the characters. There's also LGBTQ representation in this one, as well as in Fresh. Fun characters, a really, really fun story, a fun take on the Anastasia myth, and I really enjoyed it. So now I'm going to go pull up my reward that I get. I don't have to pull a punishment, but I'm going to pick up a reward. So my reward for this one is discount book shopping. So that means I can go to Book Off in the City, or I could do like an online book order or something. So something discount book shopping, and I'll probably show you guys that in my next book haul. Let me know what are some of the books you finished this month, and I'll talk to you guys soon for my next video. Bye, friends.